This is an overview of this monorepo project, which is basically a boilerplate template for having one repo with multiple projects inside of it. What we've been doing in this class is building up to this full stack app. And this is one way of doing this. Not everybody organizes like this, but I want to try it for this project because our two apps, the React front end, which is what the user sees, and the Node Express backend, which is going to provide an API, are very tight, are coupled together, meaning the front end needs the back end to get its data out of. So I wanted to show you how this project is structured so that you can see how cool this is. Okay, so this was created by, I think Claude made this one, and then I tweaked it a little bit. But here's the idea. We have our big project, which you can see over here. There is, this is wrong. There is an apps folder here. You see apps, and the apps folder has a backend and a front end folder. Each of those are like freestanding projects like we've done in previous work in this class. So if you were to look in the front end, just look in the front end, there's a source folder, and there's a .getignore, and there's an index file, and a package.json, and a README, and a vconfig. So that's exactly what we would have gotten when we created a new React app. Under source, we have an app CSS, an app JSX, index.css. You seeing this? So that's just like what we're used to. It's just all contained in this front end folder. Similarly, there's a back end folder that has a source folder and has a package.json, which defines its project. Does that make sense? So they're like sub-packages within this big package. If you look at this, what's in this inner package.json, it's exactly the kind of stuff that we would have had before. A difference here is there is some of this, I meant to update this, is set up for the back end to use TypeScript before we've just used JavaScript. Okay, the front end likewise has a package.json, and it has the kind of stuff just like we're used to using Vite to build the React app. Okay, the new thing here is in the root of the project, there's a package.json, and this new feature that I didn't know about until today is called workspaces, and this is a feature of NPM where we're kind of defining the idea that we have these independent workspaces within our app. The workspaces directory is apps, and we're saying each of the children of apps is a workspace. And then down here, we've got scripts to start in dev, to start the front end, to start the back end, both in dev mode. So what we're generally going to want to do here is have two. I'm going to start from scratch. All right, I'm going to open up a new terminal. In one terminal, I'm going to open up the back end, and in another terminal, I'm going to open up the front end, because we really do have two apps, and the front end is talking to the back end. You with me? Okay, so like most things, if we want to start this, the first thing we're going to do is say npm I. And try that and make sure it works for you. What that should do, because of this workspaces thing, I believe, is actually run npm I on each of the packages, each of the workspaces. Does that make sense? Almost like it's doing it recursively. You can see down here, there's like no dependencies in the outer project except this one dev dependency concurrently, which at the moment I'm not even using. Did npm install work for you? So you've now downloaded all the packages for the front end and back end. Okay, so in one folder, I'm going to run npm run dev :backend, which is just executing this script. Because that's so much to type, I'm thinking about making it just /backend, just backend. All right, let's see if that works. So now at this point, you see it's running the index.js, and it's the backend server is running on localhost 3001. So I'm going to open up a new terminal right here, and in the other terminal, I'm going to write npm run dev frontend. Does it make sense here how I'm running two separate apps? They're independent. They happen to be in the same directory structure, but they have to work together. Okay, so my front end app here is running on localhost 3000. I'm going to command click on that to open this up, which you can see it still has the feel of the React starter repo, but it has some very interesting things at the bottom if you look at it. This response from backend is actually doing 3 different API calls, fetch calls, to get data from the backend and bring it to the front end using a REST API. Which side do you want to look at first, the front end or the back end? What's that? Back end. Okay, we've been doing back end stuff, so let's do that. So if I go into apps, and I go into back end, go into source, and there's just this index.js. I'm going to make this a bit shorter. All right, going to the top, you'll see that I'm doing my normal stuff. Right, getting Express. There's this cores thing, more on that later. I'm creating an app, and notice the three endpoints that are defined here. There's an API health, which just sends back a status OK and a message the backend is running. There's an API data, and there's an API echo. Let's see what that looks like. So remember from down here, this guy, the backend is running on localhost 3001. So if I go to localhost 3001, I get this, which is what I expect to get, right? You expected this, because that's not an endpoint. Slash is not an endpoint. What are the endpoints? Slash API, was it health? So if I go to slash API health, this message is being returned. Yeah? There was also an API, I think, was it time? There's an echo. There's a data. Is there not time? Let me look at it again. Data. There is an echo. Oh, sorry. This echo is a post. So you send basically a message to it, and it sends it back. If you post it to it, it sends it back. We're not going to be able to test that without Postman or Insomnia. But we can go to data, and you see we get back this object that has a message, a timestamp, and then a data array. Does this make sense? This is what our API returns. On the front end, so going into the front end now, under source and app.jsx, I think it's all in just app. There's no more other components. You'll see that here's my JSX down here. There's the divs. Here's monorepo. And then here's the interesting stuff coming down here. If there's data, what's data? Data is useState. So I've got data coming out of useState. Then what I see down here is the message, the timestamp. And then I'm mapping over the data items that get returned from the data and putting ID and name. Does this make sense, this UL that I'm creating? Where does that come from? So here's basically the code in our app. There is a fetch data function. It's an async function. It sets loading to true. It sets the error to null. And then it tries to do some stuff that might create an error, and that is loading. It calls fetch to API/API/data. If it works, then we set the response.json as the result, and we set the data to the result. You seeing that? So we're setting the state based on what we get back. At the end, you're going to set loading to false. So this is going to handle the loading state correctly. If the data's not there yet, if loading is happening, it'll show something else. Like, what's it going to do up here? If it's loading, it says loading. Okay, we have a use effect. Remember use effect? The use effect runs When?
At the start first.
On the first render, when it's mounted, that's what the empty array means. So we're calling just fetch data at the beginning when the page loads, essentially, when the component mounts. So, so far so good? So we have this baby front end that is sending a message to the back end. They're both running on my computer, but because they're running on different ports, it is actually that one program is talking to another program. The React program, I guess the browser that's running my React code is talking to my server. If they're on different ports, then it's like they're on different computers. Okay. Questions so far? Okay. Do you need to know about this? I don't know. If you look in v.config, I just feel like you should know this. There's a little bit of magic that's happening here. When you send a request to the API in development mode, you know that you're getting both front end and back end from the same computer, the same host, but they've got to be on different ports. You'd have to hard code localhost :3001 into your app to make it work in development mode, which you don't really want to do. So to get around that, there's this thing called a proxy, and we're going to say that in our v config, we can say that the server is going to run port. It's going to appear to be running on port 3000, and we're going to get to it and say anything that does /API, we're basically going to redirect to localhost 3001, and we're going to change the origin. So make it look like it came from itself. So this is a little hoop to jump through that's called a proxy. That's just for dev mode, and this is actually the magic to why we can send a fetch. Where is it? To just /API from our front end. It would be here. In fetch, we do /API/data to talk to what's going to be our own server. But this is the way it would be. You'd rather have this format when you go into production. Okay, questions on this? So the beauty of this is you're making a full stack app where the front end has to talk to the back end, and vice versa. So to me, it does make sense to keep them in one thing. You can keep them completely separated, but then you got to make sure if you change what that endpoint responds with, you better also update your React app so that it knows the new names for those items. You with me? And so to me, for what we're going to do, I think this simplifies. So what I'm suggesting that you do, /requiring, is move your current front-end UI that you made all those components out of. Remember that? You remember that? You separated components from that code that Claude made. Move that into the front-end project.
Now, does each team need to make a separate
Okay, so like, don't hate me, Annika. Don't hate me. So I think what you should do now is replace the repo that you had before with this. And then essentially put what you had before inside of this structure. There's several ways you could do that. None of them seem clean and easy.
Is this still related? Yeah, that's the thing.
This is too late for that. Is that what you're saying? Is it too late to Dejankify this? Oh. So I'm saying, I think, take this code. This is a massive Git change. Take your current repo for your team. Okay. Copy everything that's in there to a folder in some other directory. Okay. Then copy everything in this project into it. No. Yeah. So it's replaced it. So that this is your baseline. And then take your copy of Janet and put it into the front end folder. That's what you want to do. What you created before was just a React project, right? So that React project in some way needs to go inside this front end folder. It might be easier to just create a new repo, like fork this, and then copy your current code into the front end of this new repo, and then push that up. And then if you really wanted to, you could delete the other repo and then rename this one to be that. You follow me?
Are you going to add more to this, or are we going to like totally split off now to where like the back end may look different between?
I have two answers to that. No and yes. / I don't know. Like, I get how as soon as you make it a fork, it's going to be really difficult to update from this, in my experience.
We can still merge.
Yeah. So, like, I think we could say that anything that I give you, it would be for reference. And then I'll demo how to do it, and then you can do it in yours. This is the major structural, this is a giant structural change to the project. Because now there's two projects in one, which there weren't before. You follow me?
Yeah, well, I think, should we do it, because we're all working on the same site. Like, it's supposed to look fairly similar. I think maybe we could fork it off of this one, add the component. We see which one may work the best,
Which one what?
Like which fork works the best, and then update this monorepo, and then fork it again for the next thing. I feel like that would be the best.
Wait, does everybody's project not work that you made into components?
I think the components would be very similar, wouldn't it?
Did y'all make changes to those components? So it's the same. I mean, so I could go ahead and just drop the components in here from one of your groups and then give that to everybody.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, because it's all supposed to be very similar.
I mean, yes, but I would like it to begin to diverge now where you make it your own.
Well, but I thought we were making it our own by our what we do with the back end, because it's like we're supposed to work specifically on the link thing.
Open graph.
The open graph. Like we're supposed to work on the open graph.
Ooh.
And they're supposed to work on the thing. Well, I thought it's supposed to look similar. Like we're supposed to use the same components, but the back end stuff will be different.
Okay, you took me in a way that I wasn't expecting to go. My vision was that all three groups were going to make all three features.
Oh.
And then there'd be three whole versions of the whole lab. It was just last time y'all were digging into specialized to teach the rest of the class what that thing was about.
Oh.
Now, given our compressed time scale, maybe we'd rather split it out like that so that each group only deals with one thing.
I think that would be better, because I feel like people need to learn how to merge and compare. And I also feel like specializing in one, we would be able to get it done better, rather than we focused on one thing and then the other two is and then we focused on one thing and the other.
I'm open to that. But counterpoint, it may be hard.
To like grade.
I don't know about grading. Because you're all going to get A's, right? Because you're gonna do it. What's it going to be like to merge from another group? It's not substantially different than another person.
Well, if it's not substantially different, then that should be a good merge. Because we also need to learn how to separate the back end anyway, so it's not just one gigantic index.js.
Yes, we need to do that. There's also this idea of we're going to have a database, and is that any different? The database schema has to stay consistent. But I guess that's not especially, that just means there is a shared file.
Yeah, what would be on the database other than like.
So more on this soon, but the database needs to store all of the data that has been generated by users so that you can regenerate any past analysis.
So the analysis report, would we be able to do, this may be a question for Lisa, would we be able to do, he specialized in it.
She's really good at databases.
Yeah.
But,
but because we're doing the separate things, so like the open graph, the images, instead of having database report and then like each column in like one table, will we be able to make separate tables, report, and sub-report?
does the open graph generation of a page have anything to do with the performance characteristics of the page?
Not really. I think the only thing that we could say that would be connected with open graph and other stuff would be alt text, because you're also able to do alt text. That's like the only thing that I can.
That feels really loose as well.
Yeah.
So on the whole, what I'm trying to say in an annoying way is we want to normalize the system. Each of the three things that y'all are doing by design was an independent thing, so it should definitely be in a different table.
So I think
it also ends up being a different UI component, as I'm imagining it too, where we're going to see these are all the images that are missing, and then this is the performance characteristics, and then this is the open graph tags that you should add. You know what I mean? Like they're separate sections, and there'll be separate entities in the table. So
the table that would connect it together would be a table with like the
report ID
and then the sub-report ID.
Yes, so there have to be joining those different sub-analyses to a website. Okay. I think you've convinced me that we can do this. And this is on me because I didn't get started early enough. But do you all understand the discussion? Are you all okay with this? I think it lightens your load, but it creates much more. Like before, you could only what's that called? You could only intersect and what's the word? Collide.
Collaborate.
What? Clobber. Clobber is the word I want. The correct word was clobber. Before you could only clobber the 4 other members on your team. Now you're going to be able to clobber everybody else in the class. That's the danger that I feel.
But the thing is that we don't like if you're afraid of that, we at least for our like goal. So it's like if our team does an open graph, we don't have to. We can still fork it, but then we don't have to merge it into main. We could merge it into the Janet or the other one.
Okay. Is everybody okay with this change in the assignment? So then basically your team just has to specialize in the functionality that you learned last time.
So to summarize, you are bringing the components of other projects into the front end of this one, and we're going to do one of those things that we were assigned last time.
Yes. Well, and you'll have to do the front end and back end changes to make that piece work. And then it comes together at the end with this one big, beautiful product. So because of that,
What is collab? What was
clobber?
Clobber?
I like to say clobber. It's not a technical word. It just means like when two people run into each other and there's a big bang. So collide would be a good word too. But I think to me it represents the chaos of working on a group project where everybody could potentially write conflicting code. Okay, so, but here's the vision then. JT, do you have a lot of free time? I mean, you're doing game jam, so you don't have free time.
I should have some amount of free time.
Here's what I'm realizing now. Then
I should have free time tonight.
I think then that me, and I'd love a student collaborator, makes one starting version of the whole project with this thing. So instead of everybody doing this, moving the things around, we do it once, and then it makes sense that we all have one ancestor. And then Janet will work on that one component, and Alice will work on that component, and I don't know who the other lady's name was. We'll work on the other one. And as you get things working, we will want to pull in and merge back into the main branch.
We will want to try to make everyone update it at least like every bi-weekly.
Even that's so long. You don't want to do that. So let me say then by Friday, we'll have the actual starting point that everybody can create a branch of. Now we're all in the same project. There's not forks. There's not 3 repos. There's one repo to rule them all. The mono repo.
So we're all, everyone.
We may not push to the main branch. We will push.
I will lock down the main branch and make it so that the main branch can't be merged. It can only be modified through a pull request, which then requires a review from somebody. Which I don't really want to be the person who reviews them. Somebody of y'all needs to be. But it would be good to learn that process. So, between now and next time, can you, I want you to double down on understanding whatever that optimization was that your team was doing. And try to really learn what it's about and how to get ChatGPT to do it for you.